Gossiping Wild, also known as the Rolling Explorer, and welcome to my YouTube channel. In case this is your first time coming across any of my content online, let me give you a little bit of backstory into who I am. I'm a disabled American content creator who lives in central London with my husband and my dog. Essentially, I have a passion for spreading awareness about the disabled lived condition through my own lived experience. This passion of mine has roots all the way back when I was a little girl. I was born with my disability, and as a child, I never saw anyone who looked like me in any form of media. Not in magazines, not on the news, not on TV, not anywhere. And so now as a disabled adult who has really come into herself and really grown confident in being different and being unique and being disabled, I want to be that representation for all the other people out there who may not be in that same space yet, while also still providing a space for non-disabled people to really learn about the disabled lived condition through my lived experience. I've been making short form video content over on Instagram, TikTok, and even on YouTube Shorts for quite a while now. And while I love short form video content and find it really fun to create, I also find that it has its limits. You really only have a short window to capture people's attention, and getting across all of the important messages that I have in 15 seconds isn't always possible. So with that in mind, and my goal of being the representation I didn't see as a child, I've decided to start my own little docu-series right here on YouTube. In this 4-part mini-series, I'm going to take you behind the scenes and show you everything that happened during my first full Fashion Week experience. Spoiler alert, it was chaos, but kind of in the best way. Episode 1 starts right now. I'm going to Fashion Week. Oh, there's somebody getting in. Hi.
Hi.
I don't know if it's because I'm a woman or because I'm disabled or because I'm me, but it takes me forever to leave the house. The amount of times that I get to the ground floor of my building and realize that I've forgotten something, or I need something else, or my chair is broken, or something is too many to count. But we move, and I always give a little bit of extra buffer room just in case, because of this behavior. Stop thinking about the bus. I hate the bus. But we're getting the bus. Okay, I know saying that I hate the bus is pretty strong language, especially considering the bus is one of the more accessible methods of transport in London. But at the same time, it's not one of the more accessible transport methods in London. In fact, I actually usually prefer the tube, given that the stations that I'm going to are wheelchair friendly. Because with the bus, it really depends on if the driver is ready to play ball that day. The amount of times I've had a driver just like go right past me and not stop, or not let me on because there's a stroller in the disabled spot, is too many times. And so the bus just like leaves a bad taste in my mouth. But in this circumstance, it was necessary, so that's what we did. As a longtime follower of Fashion Week and London Fashion Week in particular, I really tried hard to dress for each particular event that I attended. Because as important as the actual runway fashions are to kind of the trends of next season, the fashions that people wear to the events as guests is almost equally as important, I would say, in kind of determining what's next. So I really tried to show off my own personal style while also highlighting what I'd like to see more of next season. So the first event I was able to attend in the September 2022 run of London Fashion Week was Isabel Manns Presentation. It was at the Marylebone Hotel in Marylebone, London. And I just gotta say this real quick, the space was very, very accessible. I'm gonna talk about accessibility quite a bit during this series because that's just a real reality for me as a disabled woman who uses multiple mobility aids. And going into this week, I was really, really concerned because London in general just isn't really that accessible. So I didn't know what I'd be up against. But considering our first event was in such an accessible space, I have to say it left me feeling very hopeful for what we were going to come across for the rest of the week. On top of having ramps and flat surfaces, the staff were really helpful in holding the doors and making sure I had enough space in the hallways and all of that stuff. And it was just so great. Everybody was so kind and accommodating, and I'm just really grateful for that. Part of me is sad that that's just not my expectation, that I don't expect a brand to think about having an inclusive and accessible place to hold their presentation or event or runway or whatever. That is just like not the expectation. It's my hope every time, but it's not my expectation because I've just not seen it. But considering they invited me, a physically disabled woman, I did have a lot of hope, and I'm really, really glad that they matched that hope, exceeded that hope, and made me feel really welcome. Because the Queen had recently died, there was a lot of kind of question as to whether Fashion Week was going to go ahead at all, and I'm really grateful that things still managed to go ahead while still paying tribute and paying respect to the Queen, like with this little presentation here at the entrance of the event. I don't know why, but it was just really weird watching myself walk from behind. I don't feel like I see that perspective like ever. I watch a lot of videos of me strutting forwards, but not from behind, and I actually think I walked quite naturally. I'm like, kind of doing okay. Okay, naive Jess moment number 1 of this series, because trust me, there's probably going to be several. But when I tell you I had no idea what to expect from this event, I had no idea what to expect from this event. When I got this invite, I didn't really know where I was being placed, if I was just kind of a casual guest, a special guest, anything like that. And in many ways, I was treated as like a VIP celebrity type of person at this event. I would say for like the first 15 to 20 minutes of being in the space, I was kind of like ushered towards where the designs were, where the models were, and told to pose for different photographers. And once my solo shots were done, I like went off and started mingling with the people in the room, and then was once again grabbed back to pose with other special guests that were in attendance that day. It was really surreal. I've had this happen at a few other events that I've been at, and I know as a content creator, like that's why I'm getting invited places, is because people value my presence in these spaces, they value my opinion, they value my voice, they value who I am. I don't know, but it was like this weird mix of being super surreal and super freaking cool, and also just being really uncomfortable, because in my soul, I am an awkward human being who doesn't know how to be. And because of this, I just like was happy to pose and smile, but I felt like, I don't know, imposter syndrome was definitely there. I feel like there were a lot of really cool people in the room, and I was like, why am I here? And I know I was there for a very important reason. I was there to make this series and show you guys how important it is to have disabled voices in these spaces, but it still didn't mean that I was any less uncomfortable and excited and just a really weird mix of emotions. Also, because this was a presentation rather than a runway or anything, you kind of got to decide how long you stayed in the space and what you did in the space. It wasn't like everybody was sat down watching some performance. We were kind of free to mingle about, look at the models, look at the clothes on the models, look at the clothes on the racks, and do all of that, which was great, but it left a lot of freedom up to you to kind of figure out how to spend your time, what to do. And with that, there was a lot of unease for me, considering this was my first event. There was like no structure to it, right? And because it was like my intro into London Fashion Week, I didn't really know what to do. I really can't express to you guys how awkward of a human being I am. And so to make small talk, to approach new people is terrifying. But I did it, and I met some amazing people in the process, and I'm so glad that I was able to put myself out there despite being petrified. But the thing is, and I learned this throughout the week, but mostly at this event, I think a lot of people were uncomfortable. I think a lot of people didn't fully understand the vibe. They didn't fully know how to put themselves out there. And because we were all in this state of figuring it out, it made figuring it out a little bit less uncomfortable. Or maybe not less uncomfortable, but it just gave this grace and this forgiveness to not be perfect. And honestly, in a lot of ways, this event was really intense for the reasonings that I've already given, but it was also kind of a really great introduction into London Fashion Week. It was simultaneously this really chill and really intense way of diving in headfirst into this world that I've admired on the outside for years and was finally having this opportunity to get to know really intimately. Let me talk about Isabel Mann's work for a second, because I Loved the colors. I don't know if you know anything about me, but I love bright colors. And so her use of color and pattern was something I was really excited to see. Plus, on a really epic note, the designs were reversible, so you get 2 looks for the cost of 1, which is super neat. Love that. I feel like that's a really sustainable way of doing things too, because suddenly I have 2 outfits instead of just 1. That's amazing. It takes up less space in my wardrobe. It also is less waste on the planet, and all of it combined is really exciting. So yeah, that's a little bit about Isabel Manns' presentation on the fashion side of things. We ended up staying at the event for about 90 minutes, which I thought was the perfect little sweet spot of amount of time that we should have stayed there. It was just long enough to enjoy the clothes, enjoy the people, but also not completely run out my social battery before the rest of the week. So it was just perfect. I will say one of the reasons we left when we did is not because we were completely burnt out, but instead because I had to get to my fitting for my runway show the next day. Tune into the next episode to see the footage. It's so exciting, oh my God. Anyways, my PR manager, Mary, and I also had not eaten our dinner yet. So on our way, we stopped at Mcdonald's, which as you can see, I was very excited about because they had mozzarella dippers, which are the best. But I just want to take a moment here and say that I am not one of those models who is going to starve herself the night before a runway show or a photo shoot. No, no, no. I went to McDonald's because nourishment is important, my dears. I'm at my fitting for tomorrow's show, and I don't know where the accessible entrance is, but we're gonna find it. It's gonna be fine. Yeah, very exciting. So we were actually at the back of the church instead of the front of the church when we were like kind of lost there for a second, but once we got to the lift, it was all okay. And actually the first thing I did at my fitting was not try on clothes, but check out the ramp. Because the designer I walked for, Sarah Regensberger, is so amazing and inclusive, she not only had me walking in her show, but also at least 5 other people who identify as disabled, which I think is freaking amazing. It just goes to show how epic this runway show really was. And that's why they wanted me to test the ramp. Even though I was going to be using my prosthetic and physically walking or strutting, as I do said, there was another disabled model who would be using their wheelchair in the show. So they wanted to make sure that it was sturdy enough and that it was going to work. Unfortunately, the minute that I drove my chair onto the ramp, it shifted. It made such a loud noise, which is why I couldn't stop laughing for the entirety of this little beginning scene here, because loud noises freak me out a little bit. And in this church setting, it just reverberated and was so ungodly loud. I thought I broke something. I thought I broke me. I thought I hurt someone. I didn't. Nothing was bad. Nothing was damaged. Everything was fine. But I genuinely was having a little bit of a panic for a second. And then once I realized everything was fine, I couldn't stop laughing. I tried to give some tips on what they could do to make the ramp more sturdy, so hopefully wouldn't do that with the other wheelchair user the next day. But portable ramps like that, while better than no accessibility by a mile, aren't always the best option just because they are portable, meaning that they move really easily, and unless somebody is physically holding down the ramp or there's some sort of device in place to hold it in place, it's just not gonna be the most safe option by any means. And they did come up with a solution for the actual runway, which is all that really mattered at the end of the day. So, love that. Once it was made clear that I wasn't going to be able to do anything else to help with the ramp situation, they then took me back to the wardrobe area and we picked out some outfits. For the runway, I was going to need 2 different looks and I ended up trying on 4. The order of these went as follows. A beautiful, stunning, very me red lace skin tight number. Unfortunately, it would not zip because your girl's got too much junk in the trunk. So I didn't get to wear that one, which was really disappointing. But the second look I tried on, I did get to wear, and it was so cool. It was essentially this long blazer / jacket moment that we ended up unzipping kind of into a V at the top, but also unzipping from the bottom so I could walk without being constricted to kind of waddling along. And I was told to bring black Spanx with me to wear underneath of it to complete the look. And when I tell you guys that this was super cool, it was super cool. I felt totally badass in it. And yeah, just absolutely loved it. The third outfit I tried on was this black and red duo split dress. It was really cool looking, but it was just a little big and kind of hung awkwardly off of my body. And so we just decided to go with something else instead. And then the final look I tried on was 100% my favorite. Sarah, being the angel that she is, asked me if I would feel comfortable wearing just a bodysuit out on the runway, which I really want to highlight because I appreciate that she asked me if I was comfortable, because I think that's something that in the fashion industry is not asked of models very often, from my understanding and also in some ways my experience. So I really appreciated that, and that she checked to make sure that I was okay kind of bearing my buns for all to see. And I was, because I did dance for most of my life and I'm used to wearing a leotard, which is essentially what a bodysuit is. And guys, this bodysuit was so cool. It was also a duo split situation, but it was black and white instead of black and red. And it just looked so amazing on. Because we love a bit of dramatic flair, it also went the extra step of having gloves attached to the sleeves, which I thought was super cool. Obviously, because of my shortened arm situation and limb difference, I did not wear the glove on the left hand, but I was able to wear it on the right, which I loved. I remember when I tried it on, because I just knew that I had to wear it on the runway because I knew it was gonna make a statement. I knew that anybody that saw me in it would know that I was disabled and proud. I knew that anybody that saw me in it would just be able to see the confidence radiating from me and how proud I was to be there as a prosthetic user. And I was so pumped. I was so pumped, guys. And honestly, everything about that was so freaking cool. The final part of the fitting did not go as smoothly as I'd hoped. Sarah really wanted me to wear these really high-kneed platform boots, and try as we might, we literally tried for like 10 minutes. We could not get this shoe on my left leg because it can't bend obviously the same way that a foot can to like wiggle its way in. It wasn't going on. The material, all of it, there was no give there, and so unfortunately it didn't happen. But it was all okay because I'd actually worn my faux leather combat boots to the fitting, and she was able to approve them right then and there to be able to be worn the next day on the runway. So I was just able to wear something that I was really comfortable with and knew that I wasn't gonna trip over anyway. Again, it was this collaborative effort to make sure that I was comfortable and that things were accessible and all of that. Guys, this is the location tomorrow. This is literally such a cool space. It's gothic, it's everything. It's gonna be incredible. It's like a dream come true, and it's gonna be so arty, and I can't wait, and the outfits I'm wearing are just, it's gonna be amazing. I'm so excited.